All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to be starting a new unit this week, Thursday and Friday, okay? We're not going to get into it real deep, okay? I don't want to try to put too much on you the first day or the first 2 days of it, all right? Because we're going to have a couple days, and then we got to start next week. We're going to be talking about percents, okay? And we're going to learn how to look at a percent and determine what a decimal would be for that percent, and vice versa. We're going to be able to look at a decimal and turn it into a percent, okay? And we've already talked about decimals to fractions and fractions to decimals, okay? And we'll also look at fractions to percents. All right, so you're going to have this printed out for you. If you need to come and get copies so you can take notes while I'm talking, you can kind of write it down, okay? But this will be up on Google Classroom so you can see it. So let's go ahead and talk about converting a decimal to a percent, okay? So when we're doing a decimal to percent, all right, it's pretty easy. We're just going to take our decimal that we have, okay, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to write it. I'm going to take the decimal, and when we're talking about percent, we're talking about out of 100, okay? So we're going to take that 0.23, and we're going to times our decimal by 100. Okay? Now, when we multiply our decimal by 100, all that does is move our decimal place 2 places to the right. All right? So when we see 0.23, we're going to times that by 100. Okay? And that moves that decimal place. And that's what our answer is. 23, and then we're just going to put the percent symbol with it. So 0.23 is 23%. Okay? Now, same way with this one. I got a little bit more room here. So I'm going to take 0.09, and this little dot right here means multiplication, times 100. Okay? Like I said earlier, all that does is move your decimal place 2 places. Okay, so 1, 2. %. Okay? Now, it does not matter where your decimal is. It does not matter how many numbers you have in your decimal. Okay, you just multiply your decimal by 100, and that is the percent. So, just as a side example, if I were to give you 0. Let's just say 5. Okay, you take 0.5 and you times it by 100. Okay, so let's see what that does. Alright, I got 0.5, and I'm going to times it by 100. Okay, that's what you need to do. There's your, here's your decimal. You're going to multiply it by 100. Okay, and guess what it still does? It's still going to move that decimal place 1, 2. Well, if there's nothing there, I got to add that 0. Let's see if that's right. 50. All right, so 0.5 is half, right? 0.5 is half. Well, half times 100 is what? Well, half of 100 is 50. Okay, so let's look at the next one. We got 0.43. Well, what we're going to do, if I say convert 0.43 to percent, well, I'm going to get my trusty calculator here. I'm going to go 0.43, times it by 100. Well, 0.43 is equal to 43%. Okay? All right, now let's look at these out here. These got 3 digits. All right, we got 0.866. Okay? Now, if I ask what 0.866 is as a percent, or I say convert this decimal to a percent, we're going to take our decimal, 0.866. We're going to times that by 100. Okay? And what did I tell you happens to that decimal? You move it 2 places. Okay? When you times that decimal by 100, it moves it 2 places. So if I move it 2 places, it's in between these 2 sixes. So 86.6, and that's percent. We need to make sure that we put our percent symbol with it. Okay? Because I know a lot of us got when we answered some of the questions when we were dealing with money, we didn't put the money symbol. Well, we got to know what we're talking about. Okay? In this case, we're going from a decimal to percent, so I got to know that this is a percent. All right? Okay, now let's look at this one. We're going to take 0.219, multiply, okay, by 100, and that will give us 21.9%. Okay? Because we're going to move our decimal place 2 places to the right. Okay? Alright, now. Alright, so we went from a decimal to percent. Now we're going to go from a percent to a decimal. Well, when we went decimal to percent, we did what? Multiplied by 100. Well, guess what we're going to do now? We're going to take our percent and we're going to divide it by 100. Okay? So if you have percent, divide it by 100, decimal, multiply it by 100. So, in all reality, what you're doing is, when you're taking a percent and putting it into a decimal, you're going to move that decimal place 2 places back to the left. Okay? So now we got 0.136. Okay? Well, you might ask, well, what if it doesn't have a decimal? Well, guess what? 64, that decimal is back here behind it. Okay? Back there behind it. So we'll take 64%, 64, divide it by 100, and we're going to move that decimal place 2 places to the left. Boop, boop. 0.64. Okay? So all we need to do, a percent to a decimal, is divide it by 100. So whatever that number is, put it in the calculator and divide it by 100. So let's look at 54.9. Okay? So I'm just going to take my calculator. I'm going to go 54.9, and I'm going to divide it by 100. Okay? So see where my decimal point is? Let's see what happens to that decimal point. It was here, and where did it go? 1, 2 places. So 0.549. Okay? So that's how we do that. Just take our percent, divide it by 100. Okay? And that's going to move that decimal place 1, 2 back to the left. Okay? 18 divided by 100. Alright, going percent to decimal. 0.18. 99.6 divided by 100. What am I going to do with that decimal? It basically goes 2 places back to the left. 0.996. Okay. Now, if we just have a single digit, we'll say 6%. You're still going to take 6%. Yeah. 6. You'll just take 6 divided by 100. And it's going to move your decimal place 2 places. So your decimal place is behind to the right. Divided by 100, you're going to move it 1, 2, and put it right here. Well, if there's a gap in between, you got to place that 0 there. All right, so 0.06 is 6%. Okay. Okay, we won't spend too much time on decimal to fraction and fraction to decimal. Okay, because we've already talked about them. So, if you remember, this is your tenths place, this is your hundredths, this is your thousandths place. Okay, you're going to take, when you convert your decimal to a fraction, you're going to take this number, all of it, 899, okay, and you're going to place it over the appropriate power of 10. So that means you're going to look at the last number. Whatever place it's in, this is in the thousandths, your thousandths are going to be on the bottom. Okay? So 773, well, we're going to take our number, 773, and what place is this in? It's in the thousandths place. So I'm going to place that whole number over 1,000. Okay? Alright, let's look at this one. They got 2 of these. We got 10 hundredths. So I'm going to take 81 divided by 100. Okay? If you have a decimal like 0.05, well, where's that 5? It's in the hundredths place, right? So I'm going to take that number. What number is that? Well, it's a 5 over 100. Okay? 5 over 100. Let's do one more. Alright, if we just have a 7, that is in the tenths place. So we're going to write our number, 7 over 10. Okay, 7 over 10. Alright, so fraction to decimal. A fraction is basically a what? A division problem. So you're just going to divide these. So 9 divided by 10, okay, 0.9. 7 divided by 10, 0.7, right? That's 7 tenths. Well, that's in the tenths place. 7 tenths, 9 tenths. Okay. 1 divided by 20, I'm guessing that's 0.05. Okay. 2 divided by 25, so it's the top one divided by the bottom one. 2 divided by this. So when you put it in your calculator, 2 first divided by 25, 0.08. 0.08. Okay. 1/4. Well, we should know 1/4 is 0.25. Alright, and then 17 divided by 20, 0.85. Okay. Alright, let's look. Alright, so this says convert fraction to percent. Well, we got to combine some of these steps. So we got to go fraction to decimal, and then we got to go all the way up here, decimal to fraction, or decimal to percent. So I want to first convert, so fraction to decimal to percent. So 4 divided by 10. So we're going to take 4 divided by 10. That's going to give us 0.4, 4/10. Okay. And then we're going to multiply this, our decimal. Okay. So multiply the decimal by 100. And that's going to give us our percent. 40%. Okay. So we got to take this from a fraction to a decimal to the percent. So there's a couple steps. 8 divided by 20. Okay. That's going to give us 0.4. We're going to, once we get there, we're going to times that by 100. And that's going to give us our percent. Okay. So fraction, decimal, percent. Okay. So this one says 5 over 8. So we're going to do 5 divided by 8. Okay. That gives me 0.625. Okay. Now we're going to convert this decimal to a percent. So we're going to times by 100. And that's going to give me 62.5, and I'm going to add my percent symbol. Okay. So that's how we do those. Okay. All right. Convert percent to a fraction. All right. So a percent is always out of what? I told you this earlier. It's always out of 100. Okay. So I'm going to place my number, and I'm just going to place it over 100. Now, if it'll simplify, that's okay, but if it doesn't, that's fine. 23.4% over 100. All right. Take my percent, 46 over 100. All right. So this one will simplify. All right. This one might, but I know this one will. So if you want to know what it is simplified, you just put it in. 46 ABC, because this is in a fraction now, 100. So 23 over 50, okay, is the same thing as 43%. 73 over 100, okay, we just put whatever our percent is, and we're just going to put 100 underneath of it. Okay. Okay, so just put your percent over 100. Okay. Now, if you have a decimal as your percent, okay, you can leave it like this, or you can change this to a decimal and then change that decimal back to a fraction. But I'm not worried about that right now. Okay. So for today's assignment, it'll have different sections on there, and it'll have convert decimal to a percent and a couple in it. Convert percent to a decimal. Convert, well, we might leave these out. Okay. And then put these two in here. Okay. And I'll tell you each one what you need to do. All right, so it'll say convert fraction to a percent. Well, you just do that. Okay. Remember to convert a fraction to a percent. We're going to divide first. Okay. numerator divided by your denominator, puts it into a decimal, and then decimal into our percent. There are some that we need to be able to pick up on pretty quickly, and I'm talking about decimals and knowing what they are as a percent. We'll talk about those more tomorrow, but this is kind of how yours is going to look for right now. Okay? If you have any questions, email me, send me a comment on Google Classroom. If you do the assignment and you're not sure about it, write down what you got and then be ready to ask those questions on the Google Meet, and we can address them then. Okay? And that way you can go back and see, okay, well, I feel good about that, so I'll go back and put those answers in. Okay? All right. See you on the Google Meet.